I would like for you to introduce yourself, and everybody can go around the room. Okay. Okay, you can go first. Very good.
Happy Baldwin Parks. I'm with Altrusa at Dayton, and I'm the current secretary
For the president's club.
for the president's club.
Okay.
I'm Larry Horowitz. I'm with the Riverdale Optimist Club. I'm a past president of the President's Club and also the scholarship chairman for the President's Club for the scholarships we give to St. Clair College.
Phil Parker, I'm a past president of the President's Club, and I'm the co-chair of the Citizen Leisure.
And you're also Rotarian, aren't you?
Yes, I am a Dayton Rotarian. I am.
Right.
Okay.
I'm Tony Massoud, and I belong to 3 organizations that are memberships. The Civitan Club of Dayton, the Dayton Arab American Forum, the Miami Valley Military Affairs Association, and I'm also a past president of the President's Club and currently on the board of the President's Club as a vice president.
Aren't you the Civitan governor?
Oh, I'm governor-elect.
All right.
Very good.
Very good.
That's what I heard.
Margaret, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, okay. Well, my name's Margaret Krukmeyer. I'm the president of the Dayton Women's Club, secretary of the Dayton National Cemetery Support Committee. You haven't seen about Wreaths Across America. That's my project for December 18th to volunteer with. And belong to some other member clubs, but thank you for coming here and hope you enjoy the environment.
Margaret is also a member of the Civitan Club.
Oh, whoops.
All right.
Okay. And we have a guest speaker here, Dan.
Sure, I'm Dan Cleary. I am Daniel Cleary, Cleary Creative Photography. Been a professional photographer here in the Dayton area, now going past 32 years. I've worked with hundreds of different businesses here in Cincinnati, with thousands of different families throughout the region. And if you have ever been into a Kettering Health Network building, you have probably seen one of my landscape photographs, because they have put up a few hundred of my landscape photographs.
We'll introduce you formally when you
Yeah,
speak.
but that's basically who I am.
Okay. Tanya?
Good afternoon. My name is Tonya Lee Carrie, and I'm the founder of God's Freedom Fighters International, and I am just thankful and blessed to be here. And I'm Veronica Fidel Namos. I'm the president of the President's Club, and I'm a member of Twin Tig Incorporated, and of course serve on other boards and committees and things like that. And I'm a real estate broker, so I really would like to welcome everyone. And next, I want Madam Secretary to talk about your event that you guys have.
So our luncheon auction.
Yes.
Oh, certainly. Altrusa and Dayton had their major fundraiser on October 30th. Is a luncheon auction. And this year was kind of unique from the standpoint with COVID and coming out of COVID and spiking and all of that. It was interesting because we didn't know whether or not we were going to be able to have a live event or needed to do it online. Turned out we were going to have a live event. And we didn't know how businesses would be when we solicited donations, having come off a year or two with a lot of financial challenges due to COVID. But we were so amazed at their generosity with almost everybody that we went and asked for a donation to support this event. Then we thought, okay, good, we've got that. Now we need people in the seats and didn't know their comfort level. We exceeded our expectations with that. And we thought this may be a great, an odd year too on how much we would raise. But we were thrilled when we were able to raise over $14,000 from this luncheon auction. We were going to be grateful if we made 8 or 9. So it's just been a year of surprises with that. So this money is used by our Altrusa Foundation to provide 2 scholarships. Through the Dayton Foundation, we have grant requests from different organizations like We Care Arts, Dayton Christian Center, Hannah's Treasure Chest, are some of the organizations we support, along with our own service projects and things. So it was a huge success. And phew, am I tired. Glad that it's over. It's all but now the thank yous as far as to round that out. So it was great. Thank you, Veronica.
Good. Have you all had anything?
Yes, we just had our luncheon. We had all the same worries and concerns, and our luncheon was supposed to be spring of 2020. It was also supposed to be our 50th anniversary celebration at the same time. Yes, that didn't happen. So we postponed it. We're gonna have it spring of 21, and it just, we still weren't quite there yet, right? So we just had it. I think about a month ago. And numbers. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was about $1,200. And yes, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. So we do scholarships for the local Beaver Creek High School, along with an transition. So there's an application process and that kind of stuff. So all of that money then goes back into investing in education. Young women and women. So.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well, I can only invite if anybody would like to come back to tradition, men can play with dolls also. But if you would like to, we're extending invitations to our doll team, which is going to be December the 5th, which is a Sunday in the afternoon. And the lovely little ladies, last time we had it, we had 4 generations of family here. And so that is open to the public. Just go on our website, you can see there. And then also we're going to be doing a welcoming membership celebration tea here in the afternoon on December 14th. If anybody would be wanting to come back, that's what I'm having for events here. So we appreciate it. And we are getting back open. So this last Saturday, we actually hosted the Junior Assembly from Oakwood. And this were the kids that didn't get to have their junior assembly last year. This is a freshman high school type of an event where social skills are taught. I thought they used to teach social dancing in gym class or something, but so we had wonderful chaperone mothers. They ran this place like a drum camp, and the young ladies got dance cards. And there was little wallflowers, and all I can tell you is that they had these 10 dances. They broke the ice doing quote the electric slide.
Oh, wow.
And then a couple of dances later, the men might remember this, but you know how you're supposed to do formal dancing, like using the box step. So all of the Southmore class of us that attended learned how to do the box step in this ball. So they were here until about 11 o'clock. And the mothers, we allowed to let them to do the food brought in. So I thought it was sort of unique, having water, popcorn, and cupcakes. Oh, but hey, that's the flavor. But it was well attended, and it was really neat to see youth gather. Because a lot of these Southmore high schools, they had been denied everything, so they were still learning who their classmates were. So it was just a very wholesome event. Glad to bring some tradition back. So thank you for letting me share that.
And in everything that you're sharing, if there's something in the future, we put out a newsletter every month. And the information is due on the 1st. So it goes to Tony, or is it Tony.President's Club?
No,
What is it? President's Club?
it's in the newsletter.
It's on the website.
Yeah, I don't know which email.
But we have to get it to you so that you can include activities that your group is having so that we can get it out there and, people can participate and you also market. So
I-
that we can know what's going on.
I have it, I think it's I have a number of different email addresses. It could be,
No, the
you know
president-
what? Just look in the newsletter.
At the website.
All right.
Yeah, just pull up the website, you'll see. I'm sorry,
Right.
I don't have it on the agenda. Anything with you, Larry?
Any, with the optimist, like,
The Riverdale Optimist Club has a big fundraiser on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh,
And what we have a board we sell out with 100 squares on it at $100 a square. Or you can buy a half a square at $50. And then they pick the scores of the two teams, put them on around the edges of the board. And you can win at the end of the first quarter. If you have the right one, you win $250. End of the second quarter or half, you win $250. End of the third quarter, you win $250. And every time the score changes, if your score is up, you'll get $100. So you can win several $100 doing this. And at the end of the game, it's usually what's left over or around $1,000. Or if you have the score at the end of the game. And we have this at Harrigan's Tavern on Marshall Road in Kettering, which is a nice place. And you get free food, free drinks, soft drinks or beer. Cocktails you have to pay for, I'm sorry to say. But we usually fill the place up. And if anybody's interested, ask me about it and we'll give you the addresses and so on.
you put it in the newsletter.
so we need to.
And
put
it-
that in the
And I think that's in the newsletter every year anyway. So, but it's a fun thing to do, to go see, and plus you see your friends.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have anything extraordinary to report from Rotary.
But our Citizen Legion of Honor.
Citizen Legion of Honor.
success
Set,
Because of you,
well,
thank you.
because of Bob too,
Yes.
Bob Leibel. It was very successful and the ladies reminded me, your comments were very appropriate about fundraising, very appropriate, because I think the board knows that I had some concerns at the beginning of the year for the Citizen Legion of Honor for a couple reasons. One is typical COVID questions. We also didn't run one last year, so all of a sudden now you stop the year and it's like having to start the engine back up again the next year. And I was a little concerned that, people might not support us. And we were also fundraising at the same time on a parallel track because we wanted to update the third floor wall of honor. If some of you have seen that, I think several of you have. On the third floor of the convention center with all of our past recipients of the Citizen Legion of Honor. We wanted to update that for several reasons. It needed it, but the convention center changed hands from a public-owned building in the city to a port authority called the Convention Facilities Authority. And they're doing a bunch of remodeling. They're going to be spending millions of dollars on that building over the next 5 years. And they thought, yeah, ours was getting a little stagnant. It had a few blemishes and whatnot. So we raised a little over $30,000 for that early on before we started raising the money for the luncheon. And I was scared. I'm telling you, I promise you it's the truth. I was thinking, are we going to be able to go back to a lot of the same people and raise money for the luncheon? Well, lo and behold, the luncheon has come through very well. It may not be our largest year, but it has come through very well. We got our donation from a private donor who does not want to be recognized. And once they saw the wall completed, which was just a few weeks ago, they have now said, so will that continue to be maintained? And the answer has always been yes. We've always tried to do our best to maintain it. We didn't have a lot of funds, but we would try our best to maintain it. It appears the donor may, there's wood there, okay? I don't want to jinx this, okay? But the private donor says they are considering doubling their gift. As long as we put it in a fund that will secure any future repairs, maintenance, or should it ever have to be moved. So that is not confirmed. So I want to make sure that you guys hear that and you're my witnesses.
It's on tape.
It's on tape, but it's not confirmed. But this person was extremely interested in doing that because they were so impressed by not only the wall that we would do this in our community, but the caliber of people like Lieutenant General Reynolds, who just received the award. They were just over the moon on this. And then they started looking back again and looking at the history of some of those men and women that have gotten that award. So I may have more to tell you in the upcoming weeks, but it is possible that we may get another pretty much, the word was double. I mean, pretty much doubling what they were giving us for that wall. But it must be strictly reserved to the wall owner. And that's on tape, right?
Right.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Great job. Keeping our citizen Legion of Honor. Everything that we do for volunteerism is so important to the community and to the clubs. And we want to do more and get more people involved. And it's a wonderful gift to our community. Tony?
Thank you. The Civitan Club just celebrated its 100th anniversary in Dayton. Okay. And we postponed the celebration until next spring because of COVID. And at that time, there was a mandatory mask mandate. So what we're doing is December 8th, I think we'll have a gift giving here for several here.
Women's Club?
Yeah, for the PAAL Police Athletic Association League. They take care of children or teenagers, keep them off the streets. The Victory Project, they take incarcerated boys and help them, give them a Christian living and education. And then, of course, the Building Bridges. And our flagship project is with United Rehabilitation Services. The telethon on WDTN Channel 2 is December 2nd. And Civitan will be featured there because we always give them a check every year. And over the years, Civitan has supported, it was originally United Cerebral Palsy over 50 years ago. And then it became United Rehabilitation Services because they changed not only cerebral palsy, but they do all types of developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. And so that's our flagship program. And I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, now it's a quarter till, and we need to hear from our wonderful speakers. So, Tony, want to introduce Tonya?
Yes, Tonya, you want to stand up here? Tonya has a wonderful program. It's the information is in the newsletter here, or the agenda. And I think what we want is to approach Tonya with an opportunity to spread her goodwill for children that need their fathers. Okay, we're all the daughters and sons of fathers. And the problem today is, as we know, over 50% of children in Dayton Public Schools have grandparents raising them. I'm gonna just turn it over to Tonya and let her talk about her program.
Well, thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Thank you again for this opportunity and to be able to see Tony and everyone. Miss Margaret, I met her for the first time a couple weeks ago. And I know when I'm communicating, I'm not only communicating in front of, but also with my ministry started in 2001. I didn't seek it, it came after me. I was a member for 20 plus years at the Christian Life Center, volunteered on my birthday weekend. I wanted to give back. There's
Can't
just
hear you.
very much power, inspiration, motivation, encouragement when you give, when you serve. And I was just sharing in my heart out loud by myself that I'm gonna go out of here serving. There's just pure inspiration in giving back. And so I volunteered, never been in a prison before, volunteered a whole weekend with a team of people going into the Montgomery County Jail. At this time it was with the women, and it rocked my world. I was informed, don't try to be prepared, just be yourself. And I had no idea of my past that I never dealt with. At the time I was 40, 20 plus years ago. I never dealt with certain issues about myself. In that type of setting, I was at peace in sharing some of my history in my past, which was pretty abusive and very challenged for a little girl. Not only I was raised without my dad, my mother was in and out of, had mental issues. And so my little 5-foot grandmother, I was her firstborn, she got us out of foster care twice, my brother and I. Now, how did I get to here? I'm gonna bring it back to 2021. During COVID, which was very, very challenging for many of us. It was a very challenging time also financially, but I was encouraged by my sister. She's a professor adjunct, she was for Wilberforce and other universities, do some videos. And so I have a history in Dayton from doing DA TV shows, from doing comedy to doing, I was trying to find myself, as my father was a famous gospel singer, one of the original gospel layers of Dayton, Ohio. And so I started, when he passed away, when he passed away several years ago, I wrote this article that went across the country. And I wrote it when I was in tears. It was 7 months after he passed away. It's called Daddy's Girl, Message to Fathers. It was in Christian publications. It was in the front page of Dayton Defender. It was in secular newspapers and magazines. And I had no idea that I would touch so many hearts, coming from a daughter who was raised without a father, who later he comes back as an elderly man. And I literally had to raise money for his homegoing. And it showed me from that little conversation and time that we had in his latter years over the phone, not to underestimate the value of a voice. And his voice penetrated my heart. And it showed me something about fathers. And so I started doing research about fathers. And you take the father away, you have increased incarceration. Take the dad away, you have high school dropouts, children who report in school. We need our fathers. We need mamas. Dads, have a role that we cannot replace. And so we, as single mothers, we've been doing the best we can, but I believe as an advocate to speak out the value of the father, the value of the father in regards to the family and first to himself. And so it was a 15-year-old young man incarcerated. And I spoke to about 400 boys. At this time, I have about 15 years going into the prison. I never served prison time, but I was serving time emotionally, and prison ministry helped me to become free. So I recruited people from different churches in the community to go inside the prisons throughout the state of Ohio. I was a chaplain volunteer for the Dayton County Jail, also for one of the juveniles. And we took teams and went to all the prisons, and the majority of my audiences happened to be men and boys. And so I didn't say this one time, and a young man came up to me and he says, well, Miss Tonya, why don't you share what you did the last time? And it was at another institution, and it was 3 words. And I'm getting ready to cut it. It was uncover, get honest. We can't run from ourselves, we can't hide from ourselves. And I believe the more honest we are with ourselves, the more transparent we are with ourselves, then we can discover. We can discover who we are. And how we're going to discover by uncovering and then recovering, taking responsibility for our actions and how we respond, no matter what circumstances. And so that's what I did with my father, and that's what I did with my mom. My mom came, she went away for some years, and she popped up with my second marriage. How many times have you been married? We won't discuss that right now, but I will never give up on our men. But it was almost 20 years with this husband, and she pops up at the door with her suitcases after being married more than 12 years. And since then, I've been her guardian going on 16, 17 years, and I'm honored, straight up by God, to have this opportunity to honor my mother, who wasn't there, but she did the best she could under her mental condition. Through the grace that I'm receiving every day, I give it back to her and to others. And so the more we uncover, the more we recover, we can discover something I just discovered in the last 10 to 15 years, how valuable I am, how significant you are, and no life is an accident. I am my father's daughter. Now I have wrote this poem, and it was directing to fathers, and it was by faith. Fathers, paving the way, you desire the best, has endured much test. Will not candy coat the truth. You guys are the foundation of the home. Walk towards many storms to protect. Mess with your family, and a father, a real father, will hunt and arrest. You have been given the authority to bestow identity upon your family. Blessings. I am my father's daughter. And so how I'm doing this to be able to get the word out, okay, is through my book called I Am My Father's Daughter. And if you open up the flyer, I'll turn the flyer over. I'm trying to rush. The premise of the book, in which I'm into the 5th chapter, I have 8 chapters. I have 2 editors. One is a father of 3, that's happened to be my brother. And also the final editor is the Denver Post, editor-in-chief of the Denver Post. He just retired. We go back some years, and he's going to do the final edit of the book. It is to inspire fathers. It's going to inspire mothers too. But the problem is the issue with there's a father factor to the children. And in most cases, these children are adults now. So I'm also talking to sons and daughters, more than likely they are parents, to reconcile with a mother and father that they have been separated from. And how I'm going to do it is I'm writing the book. I'm looking to do a radio podcast, in which an opportunity has come to me. That will be confirmed at the end of this month through speaking, collaborating with fathers organizations as I am with the Commission, Ohio Commission for Fatherhood. And I had a GoFundMe campaign and also for office equipment and being able to do the radio, which is gonna be almost to an audience of almost 1 million. There's resources that's needed. Have a Cash App. And I have a calendar. Pass this around. I'm selling this calendar for $20. And also I have a coloring prayer journal that I didn't have last time, Tony. A coloring prayer journal in most cases is for, I would say for women or for children and a parent to do together.
How much is it?
$10.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Incredible, wonderful. And, oh my goodness. And to lift fathers up, that's what they need, to be lifted up. Their value, yes. Next.
Dan Clary.
Yes,
Taking any questions?
well, we were gonna take questions at the end.
Oh,
but
that's
go
fine
ahead.
then. No, that's fine.
Okay, so, you wanna introduce?
Yes, Dan Cleary is a professional certified photographer here in Dayton. He's been in business for 32 years. He's worked with many companies in the Dayton, Cincinnati area and with thousands of families through the years. Dan graduated from Wright State with a bachelor's degree in art and received a master's degree from Granbury Academy of Art in Dayton, Detroit. The Dayton City Commission recognized Dan as a proud Dayton original in 2015. The commission initiated this award as a nod to Dayton's long history of innovation, and inspiration. He published a book this spring about his series of photographs, Wright Brothers, Then and Now. Dan has taken historic photographs, many taken by the brothers themselves, and traveled back to the same location to create a modern photo. He then layers two images together into new photographs. His presentation to the President's Club will be about his book and the photography series. To look at the entire series and receive more information about the book, you have the website right there. It's www.clearyfinearts/photo.com. Dan, it's all yours.
Thank you. I think you covered it. I probably didn't say. First of all, very nice presentation. One thing I always am completely grateful for. My father lived to be 95 years old, and I have lots of friends whose fathers did not live that long. And so I was very privileged to have had a very long and lengthy relationship with my father that many people do not have. So I'm grateful for that. So basically what I want to talk about today, about 5 years ago, I started a photography project that now I have come to call Wright Brothers Then and Now. I had just finished reading the biography by David McCullough, and as I was finishing it, I was started thinking about. I try and spend time in the mornings reflecting on the day and what I did in the past and what I'm going to do in the future. So I was probably sitting there in the morning thinking about this in the book and thinking. And first, my thought in my head was, I'm from Dayton. I have never once been to Upland Prairie. What's wrong with me? So I decided to go out to Upland Prairie. Of course, I took a camera with me because I'm a photographer, and took some photographs. And really, when I go back and look, I took 16 photographs. So it was not a big assignment. But one of the things in doing the research about the Wright brothers and reading the David McCullough book is that one of the things, one of the traits that the Wright brothers had was they were also photographers. So they used photography as one of their means for documenting their process. Now, they did it for a couple different reasons. They did it because they were worried that people would be stealing their secrets. So they didn't bring anybody else in to document anything they were doing. So they did all this themselves. Now, it turns out when I'm doing more research, they were really interested, especially Orville was really interested in photography, and they were selling camera equipment out of their bike shops. Right. They had a dark room in their house. Actually, the dark room was in the outbuilding behind the house. So I guess they could only process film during the warm months. Couldn't do it in the winter because it would freeze, frost. But so, in my graduate studies, many years ago, I was taking photographs and kind of stripping new photographs into old, and manipulating things in a certain way. So the idea, and some of my, even today in my process I do for clients, I'm integrating a lot of different things and using Photoshop today to do that. So I found one of their photographs that they had taken from Huffman Prairie. I took one of my photographs, and one thing that I realized was that really the landscape had not changed. Now, it had not changed because Huffman Prairie is a national park, and so that they've maintained it. But that continues throughout the whole theme of the whole series. So I later that same summer, then my wife and I decided that we would take a vacation down to the Outer Banks, and we went to the national park out in the Outer Banks, and I did some more photography down there. And so then I started creating some new photographs. And then in 2018, I was asked to do a show at the Wright Library in Oakland. So I had only done about half of the photographs. I think I only had 14 photographs at that point done. And so I put up a show. They said, well, we have a speaker series. But we have people come in on Sundays and speak, and the room is about the size of this. And I said, sure, I can do that. And so I'm on the speaker series. They had about 50 chairs lined up. Well, when everyone when the whole thing happened, they had an overflow crowd. They had 75 or 80 people there. They had people standing. And afterwards, I'm answering. I did a presentation. I'm answering questions. One guy stood up and said, I just have one question for you, Dan. When's the book coming in? I said, well, that's a great question because I don't know what you're talking about. So at that point, the idea of producing a book from this series, really started flourishing. And so I really, at that point, really started thinking about how let's just really take this to the end, let's take it fully to the end process. So the year after that, the Montgomery County Culture Works gives out grants to artists every year. And so I applied for a grant to go to France because the first public flight demonstration the brothers did in Wilbur Went in the world were in France. Because no one in Ohio believed, or no one in the United States believed a word they said. Even though they said, we have photographs, we can prove what we did, we have the documentation, but they eventually went to France. So I went to France. Now, of course, my airfare and hotel were paid for, but my wife's and my two kids were not, but that was sent another story. Of course, they said, you're going, but you're not going without us. So, but we had a great time. I went to the two cities that he flew in. One is Le Mans, which is very famous now, but at the time it wasn't famous for anything. And then a small town in southwestern Ohio or southwestern France, which is called Code. I don't know how to do it.
I was just saying.
Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as it turned out, the week I was there, the week we were there was also the week of the 24-hour of Le Mans race. So on the Friday before the Saturday and Sunday race, we opened the racetrack up. So my son and I got to go to Le Mans, got to walk around the racetrack all day with the other 40,000 people who were interested in doing this. But it was a great time. It was really interesting. I got to meet a semi-retired driver on the bus from the train station to the racetrack. We had a great conversation. It was really a lot of fun. The city of Poe is a small little town, like I say, about 50 miles away from the Spanish border. And it's a town where the rich and famous of Europe had their summer homes. So he went for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it was a warmer climate, so he could do this during the winter. Also, it was because he could meet the king of England, the king of Spain, and all the different dignitaries from all over Europe. And they knew that would happen. And that turned the Wright brothers and his sister Catherine into worldwide celebrities at that point. Now, the last year especially, I was really determined to turn this into a book project. And so it was nice in the sense that I had to stay at home for 6 months. And so during that period of time, I then really sat down and finished writing all the copy for the book, and it really formalized the whole book. It got that part really done. That is if you've never done that, that is a monumental task, because trying to find every comma that's in the wrong place is almost impossible. And I did end up hiring 3 different editors. And finally, I hired one editor who had never read anything, had nothing to do with art, nothing. And basically, I had him read it and edit it, and he found all the extra commas and so forth that were missing. But he also said, "Hey, I don't understand this sentence." So that really told me a lot. So that's what I've been doing. The funny thing about this, the Wright brothers obviously were world famous and so forth, and they during the research, it was like they did this at the turn of the century. It was kind of like the 4-minute mile. The minute that it happened, everybody else could run a 4-minute mile now. Well, the Wright brothers proved that you could fly, and I believe that it was like the breakthrough of innovation, that now all these other innovations happen, not even having anything to do with flying, but like, we can do that. Well, then what else can we do? So they really, they were famous on so many different levels. So, I've been getting, I've been, trying to publicize the book and really, telling people, in Dayton and outside of Dayton. So just to show a couple of different things. A woman in Brooklyn who is a photo curator, a full-time photo curator, wrote an article about the Wright brothers and the photographs. She was, basically saying it's a wonderful conversation that I'm having with the Wright brothers and layering their photographs together. The editor-in-chief of Pilot and Plane and Pilot magazine, which I think is in California, called it an ingenious photo project. And this week, well, it's Friday, I received an email from the French Pilots Federation asking that they want to, they love the project, they've seen the photographs, and they want to include these photographs in one of their upcoming publications. So what I've done seems to have really resonated with people. I've gotten a lot of great comments, a lot of great feedback, and so I just want to get out and tell the world.
Any questions?
Yes.
So I got questions for both of our speakers, if you don't mind. And I'll start with Dan because he's still standing.
Okay.
I've known Dan, I think probably for 25 or 30 years. He used to do pictures of our folks, I think, at the Home Builders Association and then the Chamber. So thank you, Dan.
Yes.
And I kind of lost track of you, but I think the last time you were over there off of Woodman.
And now I'm not there anymore.
You're not there anymore? No? Okay. So is this, I got a couple of questions. So is this what a lay person like I would call like a coffee table picture book? So you got pictures and then you explain the pictures. I
You
see
have one
some
here?
stuff that you got
Yeah.
stacked up over there.
So
But
here's,
is that kind of what this is
so
all
it
about?
is. But what I decided to do was, I decided to, basically take each one of the photographs and then write an explanation about the photograph next to it. So,
Oh, okay,
so it includes kind of a brief history of what the historical photograph is.
right.
It includes my interpretation of how the two relate to each other and my thoughts about the process.
So it's got an old photo and a new one.
So it has
superimposed,
an historic photograph.
Right,
And then I go into Photoshop, I layer those two together.
right.
I make a decision kind of aesthetically on, what's transparent, what's not transparent, and work on merging those two things together.
Gotcha. Okay, so what's the cost of your book? Did you ever tell us?
I didn't.
What is it?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay, I mean, it's not free,
The book is $35.
okay,
Okay?
and it's softback. It's not
It's
hardback.
softbound. I also have a hardbound copy,
Oh, do you?
which is $49.
Oh, okay,
Okay?
interesting.
So anything purchased through my website is signed and also is personalized if you'd like me to. If you buy it off of Amazon, which about 75 people last month did, apparently, it's not.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll remember that, because I'll probably get a hardbound cover. So my last question, then I want to ask Tonya a question, if you'll allow me. So you've got some historical photographs, and I don't expect you to explain this, the details of the law, but the Wright brothers, if it's any image of them, they are extremely, their family is extremely aggressive about protecting that copyright unless you have permission of the authority, whether that be family or the authority that's watching over that.
So
Has that affected you?
it has not. No, it has affected me in this way. In the mid 1930s, and probably a little bit later. So after Orville passed away, so probably more early 50s, the family donated all the papers, including about 350 photographs, to the Library of Congress.
Okay,
So now those are in public domain.
gotcha. Okay,
Now, also, Wright State University has about 2,000 photographs.
you bet. I've been in there.
And so those are available for purchase. So I have purchased those photographs from Wright State University.
Okay,
Now, I have two photographs that I've also got from the Smithsonian. I've done the same thing. I've gone through their process. I have purchased their photographs directly from them. So I have not used anything that is outside of those parameters. And I'm fully aware of it.
okay. So my last point is, you're right, Ohio, Dayton didn't necessarily respond overnight is what we thought they should have, maybe when they flew in 1903, thank you, December 10th or something like that, 7th or 17th of 2000 or 1903. However, and you might know this in your research, the chamber, we came across a local printer, okay, that has printed, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's a book, but it might be a book. But one of the things he printed, which was interesting to the chamber, was, I think it was 1909 is when we did our parade. Right. For the Wright brothers. That's in 1909. Can you get this? 6 years later, we do a parade, and on the cover of this poster is sponsored by the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce. It's called the Dayton Chamber of Commerce at the time. And so I got that, and I got permission, and several years ago, we put that on the backside of our annual meeting program cover. So interesting poster dated 1909. And the reason I know that is because you said they didn't take to this understanding. So interesting how that's.
Well, so Wilbur was in Europe for a year. Orville flew for the US government and passed that test. So they they now come back to Dayton in May because Dayton was hosting this huge celebration. They were really here for about a month, and then Wilbur, a couple of months. Wilbur then goes to New York to do some additional flight demonstrations. And so there's one of the photographs in here is a very famous photograph of the two brothers sitting on the back porch of their house. And that photograph was taken because they both were here for that celebration, for the Dayton celebration. And
We have exit. Oh.
Maybe-
Yes. And then the other thing is, I just wanted to look at.
And I really love your very positive attitude, and I mean that sincerely. I'm a child that was raised, 3 boys, raised by my mother and grandparents. So maybe not exactly the similarities of yours, but maybe kind of close. But my grandparents spent a lot of time with us. My folks were divorced, separated by the time I was born, and divorced thereafter. And I just want you to know that, you know, one of the things that we keep finding out there when I ran the Chamber of Commerce and talking about the community is exactly this. What this issue is one of the many issues that we must deal with in the community. And it's not about race. It's across the board that too many families are without a male, specifically the father, but without a male to give guidance to the children. And it is extremely important. I can only guess, this is my personal belief, okay? I can only guess because by the time my folks got divorced, they asked me, a 5-year-old, who I wanted to stay with. Well, my closest relationship was my mother. And mothers usually have a very close bond with their children. They're the ones that have given them birth. And so I really missed being around a father, but thank goodness my grandfather stepped in. And you're absolutely right. We need to do across the board. It has nothing to do with race. I'm speaking as a white man, saying that we have that issue too of too many fathers stepping away and never coming back to support or help in any way, sometimes with families. So I don't know what the answer is. I wish I was smart enough to tell you what the answer was, because I tell you. But we do have a problem in this country. And I don't know if it's the same way in other countries or not. But in America, we have a problem. We got to figure out how to strengthen that family unit.
Well,
Thank you. In 2001, when I first went to the prisons, Dayton Daily News did an article interview with me, and they labeled it giving messenger of hope. And so then the city newspaper interviewed me 3 years later and said, giving hope to the hopeless. And so my article for the 4 years I was with the Dayton Daily News, my article was called Living with Hope. And so I believe between hope, no matter what the circumstance, there is hope, but that foundation is love, and that transcends religion, that transcends doctrine, that transcends your race or color or creed. And if you give that back from what you receive, and if you don't receive it, you need to go get it so you can receive the real thing. And I believe I have the real thing to be able to give that unconditionally to specific fathers, but also I can speak to mothers, being one myself, and being a role man that I love being, to encourage their value, specifically if they was raised without their dad. And I truly believe it does take a village to raise our children. And so you don't have to be a biological father to still have that in your nature to father. And that's the foundation.
Thank you. Thanks.
we had Tonya speak at the Civitan Club, and they all loved the program. In fact, I highly recommend other clubs to really reach out to her. And we're going to schedule you for Civitan in January, Dan.
Okay.
Okay,
Tonya, I didn't share, my calendar is $20 each, in which I also customize for organizations with your logo, and you can have information on the back. It's one of my passions, as my colorist breakdown.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And